doors are open. Thank you for joining us once again. I'm your host, Doug Heller, film critic and film historian for TalkMovieToMe.com. Here, as always, co-presenting with me, hopefully he can read the teleprompter, Jerry Dean Roberts, film critic for ArmchairCinema.com, ArmchairOscars.com, OverThinkingOscars.wordpress.com, as well as a plethora of YouTube review channels spanning snacks to cinema. Jerry Dean Roberts, how you doing today?
Tell me, what is your name? I didn't get that.
Fuck 'em. I want to hear you. Go track some mud on somebody's carpet.
That was my tribute to Gene Hackman. He passed away yesterday. I was watching, right
Very
before we
sad.
started this, I was watching his scene from Young Frankenstein, which is just, it's just absolutely hilarious.
Mel Brooks tweeted the way that he got in contact with Gene Hackman was Gene Hackman was friends with and played tennis with Gene Wilder. They were friends from
Bonnie and Clyde.
Bonnie and Clyde.
Mm-hmm.
And Wilder was telling him about the movie,
mm-hmm.
and that there was this part as the hermit, and Hackman said, "Do you think Mel will let me play it? I've always wanted to do a comedy."
Well, he had done so many serious films. And he had done...
And that was only 1974.
Yeah, I mean, but he was famous for the French Connection.
French Connection, and then The Conversation that year.
Right. Half of the Best Actor winners from the 1970s are now gone. George C. Scott is gone, Gene Hackman, Marlon Brando, Art Carney, Jack Lemmon, Peter Finch, and left...
Peter Finch was dead before the 70s.
Yeah, no, he's dead. He was dead before the ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Nicholson's still around, Dustin Hoffman, Jon Voight, Richard Dreyfuss are all still living.
Yeah. Jon Voight, try as we might, is still kicking.
Yeah. And they're all in their 80s.
Yeah. So this is like an addendum to our Oscar show.
This is the last 5%.
I had managed to see all of the Best Picture nominees before we recorded. However, you had to work and could not also watch A Complete Unknown the same day I did when it came out. So I was fortunate to not have to go.
Well, it came to theaters, and I just didn't get the time to go and see it.
Same.
I managed to see everything else. But this one slipped by me because it's gone now. It's out of my local theater. And
yeah,
New Year's Day or Christmas Day rather, I always go to a movie. And that day my choices were Wicked and Nosferatu. Now, if I were going by myself, I would have picked A Complete Unknown. But neither of us really had any interest in Wicked. It's not a bad film. It's just not for me. But
I got you.
We saw Nosferatu. It wasn't great, but I probably enjoyed it more than I did Wicked.
I enjoyed it. But this, stunning no one who has ever listened to the show with any kind of longevity. I am a massive Bob Dylan fan. I've named my son's middle name is Dylan.
You have to Bob Dylan what I have to Roger Ebert.
Yeah.
He's my hero.
And so, surprising no one, as soon as the movie was over, it was my favorite movie of the year.
Yeah.
This is my hope. I'm fairly certain Chalamet is going to walk away with the Oscar.
I'm not fairly certain. I think it's inevitable. This is as inevitable as Schindler's List winning Best Picture in '94.
Kate Hudson was inevitable too.
So was Sylvester Stallone for Creed.
So was Chadwick Boseman.
I think if anything locks this year, it's going to be Timothée Chalamet. The rest are up in the air.
I think Sean Baker has a pretty good line on director. He got the DGA.
Yeah, that's true. But I saw the movie this morning, and I enjoyed it very much. Because I want to tell you, I absolutely hate, with a burning hemorrhoid passion. Any kind of biopic that is just red letter events,
Yeah.
and it's not interested in the subject at all. It's just trying to shovel out a lot of things that it thinks you want to see.
Right.
That Freddie Mercury
Oh,
movie
here's
a couple of years ago
here's
was,
this
was
song.
that.
Here's that song.
Yeah,
Bohemian
here's the
Rhapsody.
creation
Well, I
of
mean,
this.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
glad this movie didn't do that. It's like, okay, here's Soy Bomb. You remember that, don't you? You know, you know,
Yeah. The one thing.
it makes him a contrarian. Really does. It does not.
Have you ever watched press of him from that time frame?
Yeah,
That's all he was.
it's not hero worship, but
No.
you understand why he's a
this is
contrarian.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, he never wanted to be what everybody decided he was.
Right.
Whatever that was in the moment. If they could box him in, he punched through the box.
He wanted to be an artist, not a populist.
Exactly. He was never interested in. He was interested in the power of song, but he didn't hold. He was more minded on his music than he was on, a message of any kind or anything like that.
Although he
Joan
stepped into
Baez, he did, because in the moment that's where everything was happening.
Mhm.
And
Well, and it's hard not to listen to The Times They Are a Changin' and not be moved socially,
yeah.
and not be moved
the
in that
thing-
direction.
The thing about all that is, the so many people of the time, and the 1960s folk scene is a hyper focus of mine. So the what was going on at the time, especially where he was and what he was doing, was inescapable. Just he made protest songs that could protest any era,
Yeah.
past, present, or future.
And it could be about a variety of things.
Right, and it's more they're more universal stuff, like This Land Is Your Land, like a lot of the stuff that Woody Guthrie wrote.
Who's his idol?
One of them.
Well, according to this movie, the way this movie plays out, Woody Guthrie was his idol.
At that time, yes, absolutely. The one thing that I love about this movie is, well, not the one thing, I can't stand cradle to grave biopics.
Yeah, that's
Now, of
what.
course,
Yeah, that's
Bob
what I was
Dylan
saying.
is still with us.
Mhm.
He's still alive. He's 83.
83. Yeah.
He'll be 84 in May. But in a way, this is a cradle to grave movie, because Bob Dylan didn't exist until around 1960 in New York, despite the fact that Robert Zimmerman had been born in 1941
Robert Zimmerman
in
is
Hibbing,
his birth name.
in Hibbing, Minnesota, and then he grew up in Duluth, or the other way around. Either way, I think he was born in Duluth and then they moved to Hibbing. Either way, he was Robert Zimmerman, Robert Allen Zimmerman, and he would he lied about himself from the start. At one point, he was lying and telling people he was really Bobby Vinton. Because he was playing music and people, he kind of looked like him, I guess. So he would try to pass himself off, and he was so taken with rock and roll, specifically Little Richard. I think there's a Little Richard mention at one little brief flash in the movie, and there is some really bad recording of one of the only early performances of him. It's him with two of his friends at a talent show. He's banging on a piano, just Little Richard, Little Richard, Little Richard, Little Richard, Little Richard, not really coming up with anything more than just saying Little
His
Richard while
name.
he's banging on the piano. But it was fascinating because he was trying to do something that he didn't quite understand yet,
Hmm.
but he has this natural predilection to musical instruments. Like he can tune by ear and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting to watch Timothy Chalamet
Hmm.
doing these things. I saw that
He's done his
James
homework.
James Mangold also wrote and directed Walk the Line in 2005 with Joaquin Phoenix and Reese Witherspoon, which is a decent picture.
Oh boy, his filmography. It is.
Well, James Mangold has a very diverse.
Yeah, let me put it this way. James Mangold, the last film he directed was Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny,
Mhm. And the one before that was Ford v Ferrari.
which got for some odd reason, got a Best Picture nomination.
Yeah,
I've
I
never
don't.
figured that out. He directed the remake of 3:10 to Yuma. His first film was pretty good. It was called Heavy. And then he followed it up with what was supposed to be Stallone's comeback, which was Copland, which I didn't like.
I liked it. I only
It was
saw it
okay.
once in the theater. It was a long time ago, so I don't really
Robert De
remember.
Niro and Sylvester Stallone are not a fit on screen
No.
together.
Then he did that weird psychological thriller Identity.
Yeah, that was okay.
That
That was
was
okay.
that was good. That
If you don't know what it's about while you're watching it.
right, and if you do, actually the signposts are really cool to watch as you go along and figure it out. But
Early on,
and he's also set to direct the Dawn of the Jedi. He is writing and directing that. That is in production,
but
pre-production.
yeah, it's not a distinguished, but there are good movies in there. The best being Walk
He's
the
a
Line. And
yes.
were you surprised? I was kind of surprised Joaquin Phoenix wasn't in this movie, because here's a movie directed by James Mangold and Johnny Cash. It's not a big role. Maybe that was it.
No,
It
it's not a big role, but the other part of it is that was 20 years ago.
yeah,
Joaquin Phoenix does not look like Johnny Cash in the 60s now.
yeah, she could fix that. But I mean, it would have. I'm just saying it would have been interesting. Let me tell
It
you.
would have been, but it was a technically it was still a different character, in a lot of ways.
Technically, yeah. But let me tell you where I am with this. I struggle with biographies about people who are still living,
Hmm.
and also about people that we are as familiar with as the letters in our own name.
Hmm. Also,
Because
when they're actually involved in the biopic.
especially if they are so imitated,
Hmm.
because that puts that leans a very heavy on the actor who has to play the part. I'm thinking of Anthony Hopkins and Nixon,
Hmm.
because everybody in the world has their Nixon impression.
Yes.
Consequently, everybody has their impression of Bob Dylan.
Hmm.
So it lays on Timothy Chalamet to find a middle ground. And when I saw him, he walks in the very first scene. He walks into a bar and he asks somebody, he's asking about where he can find Woody Guthrie,
Hmm.
and because Woody Guthrie is sick, he's dying of Huntington's disease,
Hmm. The same
and
thing that took his mother,
right,
actually.
and he looks just like Dylan all through the movie. But that first scene, he comes in the hat, and he's kind of hunched down like Dylan does.
Hmm.
And in my head, what I was thinking was, when he speaks, I'll know if this will carry through for the rest of the film.
And it does.
And it does.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, now the second hurdle. How does he sing? He goes to see Woody Guthrie
Hmm.
in the hospital, and we get a song. We don't get
Yes.
a nugget of a song. We get the
No, he
whole thing.
pretty much all of Song to Woody. Yeah, pretty much.
And I'm so
Um,
happy because that happens all through this movie is that when
yeah,
he's allowed to sing, he's allowed to sing the whole thing. It reminded
yeah.
me of Angela Bassett,
Mangold did the
What's Love
same
Got to
thing
Do
in
with
Walk
It?
the Line.
Yeah,
Yes, that too. Yes.
allowing the artist to sing, to be able to present
Mm-hmm.
themselves
Mm-hmm.
and not just do bites and nuggets.
Yeah.
And I was
And
so appreciative of that.
and they did it. They did it live. They did it
Yes,
themselves.
yes.
They learned how to play guitar and banjo and all of that.
Sissy
And
Spacek did the same thing.
yeah, yep.
Hmm.
And so did Joaquin Phoenix and Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah.
uh, but when I was while I was watching it, the way that he does it, he takes on the vocal mannerisms and even some physical attributes uh, of the young Dylan, but he doesn't do an imitation. He doesn't do an impression.
No, that's what I was saying. He's not
He
because
he
everybody knows how Bob Dylan
does
talks, and he doesn't
right.
do that.
He doesn't overemphasize and
Right, right.
you know he just he talks the way that Dylan did then, especially. It was just kind of flat and a little
Hmm.
mumbly. Um,
Same thing with the singing.
yeah, pretty much. But he the other acting standout, I have to say, if you
There are like
close
5
your
in this
eyes,
movie.
if you close your eyes and just listen to Edward Norton while he's Pete Seeger, you would think that Pete Seeger had lifted from the grave and started as
I
himself.
started thinking. Okay, here's Edward Norton. Usually, when you have a supporting role in a movie like this, it's usually very brief, and it is only to play to whatever moment is going. No, Pete Seeger, Edward Norton is playing a complete human being,
Right.
and
With a family that you get to meet,
right,
and you know, real you understand his motivations, his passions, his prejudices.
hmm
And the same thing, he was talking, and I'm like, okay, he's talking kind of like himself, and then every now and again, there would be this lilt in his voice that
hmm
Pete Seeger had that he was always kind of singing,
he's done his
even
homework.
when he was talking. And
I loved. I think I fell in love with Monica Barbero as Joan Baez
yeah,
because these two roles, the ones of Joan Baez and Pete Seeger, are not tiny little supporting nothing. They are real performances, and they're
yeah,
real,
they
well written roles.
because they're very major parts in his life.
Right.
Now, my biggest quibble.
Hmm.
Well, I have two big quibbles, but one of them is bigger than the other. Now, my first one is that he didn't have a girlfriend named Sylvie. She is actually a composite and a renaming and a reworking of a woman named Susie Rotolo, who just
Is that
recently
the one on
passed away from
Freewheeling?
cancer.
Is that the one on the
Yes,
Freewheeling
yes,
album?
yes. That's the
Okay.
one that Elle Fanning is kind of stepping in for.
Yeah.
She Susie Rotolo, I don't know why they changed her name, other than the fact that she was not a celebrity.
Hmm.
I'm not really sure why they did what they did with that, and it
Hmm.
was the timeline is a little squiffy, but the other thing is the biggest the only really big problem I had is that they basically made Pete Seeger into Ramblin' Jack Elliott and cut Ramblin' Jack Elliott completely out of Bob Dylan's life.
Yeah.
So the way
There's a
that
great
it kind
documentary
of
about Ramblin' Jack Elliott.
yes, it's called The Ballad of Rambling Jack. It was written and directed by his daughter Ayanna Elliott.
Yep.
Um, that was in like 2001.
It's really good.
So, you know, Pete Seeger was a major part of Dylan's early career, but the person that showed him the ropes and took him in, that showed him how to play like Woody and all of that stuff, was Ramblin' Jack,
Hmm.
because Jack Elliott is about 10 or 11 years older
Hmm.
than Dylan.
Yeah.
So Elliot came along and hooked up with Woody while Woody could still move
Yeah.
and play and sing, and so he learned at Woody's feet and kind of took that down into the next generation, into the folk clubs in New York, when Woody was too old or too sick to then go and spread that message the way that he was. The thing that I think that got him written out was because he's not well known.
Mhm.
And everybody knows Pete Seeger.
Yeah.
And, well, anybody who's going to watch this movie that knows who the hell Bob Dylan is knows who Pete Seeger is.
Another great documentary, The Weavers, wasn't that a time, which Pete
There's
Seeger
a few
was
good,
part of.
yeah, there's a few good Pete Seeger docs.
There are
Um,
two main things that I have with this movie. One, and it's the biopic thing, is do I believe that I'm watching the real thing? How far do I have to reach to believe that this actor is playing this role? Timothy Chalamet, not at all. I don't have to think. I absolutely believe that he's there.
yeah.
The other thing, and this is very important, is I ask myself, is the movie about more than just the subject?
Mhm.
And or is it just a bunch of red letter things? This is really finding a part of his career. It's not trying to, unlike Nixon, it's not trying to deal with the whole
Yeah.
scope.
It's
It's like,
it deals with his professional origins, and then leads up to and actually cuts off before the biggest parts of his career.
but that's okay because the part that we deal
this
with,
ends in 65. Yeah,
Right.
the part that we deal with is really really fascinating.
this is only 4 years.
It's fascinating. It ends in 1965, right around, like, in between when he released Bringing It All Back Home and Highway 61 Revisited,
Mhm.
which Highway 61 Revisited has, like a Rolling Stone, which at the time was known as the snare drum heard round the world.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that was the sounding cry of new rock and roll right there. And this cuts off before we get to see his major explosion into the world, and then Blonde on Blonde, his big tour. And I thought it was going to end with his motorcycle crash, honestly, because they kept cueing.
That's
kept
where the movie
focusing on him
ends.
being. That's where
Him on the motorcycle.
The movie. He on the motorcycle, yes, but not at his crash. It's a
Not the
full-
accident, yeah.
It's a full probably year and a half before his crash.
Because you just
I
know,
thought they
you're
were
looking
gonna
at him
go
and you just
there.
know, you're like, okay, this is leading to the accident.
Yeah,
But I want to
and they
say,
don't do it, and I was so happy with that.
I want to say though, what surprised me about the movie was what develops in the second half, because
Mhm.
there is this because, and I'm glad Johnny Cash is here in the movie because he's the conduit to what becomes the battle that Dylan has to fight, and that is he's going to the Newport Festival, and everybody wants him to play acoustic, and he wants
The
to do
Newport
electric.
Folk Festival,
Excuse me.
and they will not accept that folk can be electric.
Yeah, and that's something that
Eventually
Johnny
they
Cash
did.
had to fight too.
Yes. Yes, he wasn't allowed to play at the Grand Ole Opry because they didn't permit drums. And then when they finally permitted drums, he went on and it was their thing, or electric instruments. So when they did allow that, then he got banned from the Ryman Theater for busting out the stage lights. He was kicking out the stage lights while he was playing because he was always high on amphetamines.
Yeah.
Like, really, he was basically always high on amphetamines.
Well, here's the funny thing. While I'm watching it, and they do go at the end. First of all, I don't know where he got it in his head to break out Maggie's Farm, but when you hear him electric in the film and you hear him acoustic, I get where the audience is because There's such a purity to his voice when it's acoustic. Yeah, it sounds great electric, but the magic is in the acoustic. It's in the unplugged. It's in the purity of that music. So I get where Dylan was. Dylan's like, I want to do what I want to do. And the audience has expectations. And in between are all these executives like Dan Fogler and all these guys are just like, I don't, why don't you play Blown in the Wind? He's like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, he'd moved on.
Yeah.
That whole transition from the acoustic folk to electric with a band and rock and roll and all of that was the first major turning point of his career.
Yeah.
And the not the last time that he would just say, I'm going to make whatever I feel like making,
Yeah.
you can buy it or not. I'm going to get it out. I've always admired that about him. He just goes in and he makes the music that is on his mind. He makes the music that he wants to make, and he doesn't get pressured by.
It's a small view of, well, maybe not small, but it's a sort of microcosm of what all artists have to go through. Whether you're an actor or a director or a musician, you have to fight with those who want to sell you and want to sell your material as commerce, and all you really want to do is make art. And you want to sit down with your pen, with your guitar, with whatever you've got, whatever your instrument is, and do your thing. It's your art, it's your life, it's your soul. And you have to battle the powers that be that are only interested in money.
Yeah. Have you ever heard the Bird song, So You Want to Be a Rock and Roll Star?
Mm-mm.
It's basically, now it's time to go downtown to the agent man who will sell you down, who will let you down, then go to the company who's waiting there to sell plasticware.
That's it.
It's a great song. He calls it out like in the mid '60s, like dirt while all this was happening. It's a good song. Check it out.
And it gets ridiculous. I mean, this is why John Fogerty had to go to court, because he was being sued by his record label for copyright infringement of himself. I mean, it gets ridiculous.
Well, I mean, in the early '80s, Reprise Records took Neil Young to court because he wasn't making Neil Young records.
Or he wasn't making. Yeah, he wasn't making Harvest. He was experimenting.
Right. He was doing like that weird stuff with the Blue Notes.
Oh, the techno stuff.
And, yeah, it was like techno jazz stuff. It was weird, and they sued him for changing musical genres and expanding himself. They lost that case. Neil Young won that case.
And then he went right back and did the same thing that he was doing that they were wanting him to do. It was
well, yeah, but he did what he wanted to do when he wanted to do it.
They ordered him to make a Neil Young record, and he made a rockabilly album.
Right. And
this is what artists have had to go through.
Yeah, and I love in throughout this, Mangold and Chalamet do everything they can to ensure that you understand that Bob Dylan was about 65% asshole.
Oh, and they get it. Because
I mean, they tell him that.
He's on stage with Joan
Yeah,
Baez, and she turns to him and tells him, you know what they want to hear. He says, "No, they don't want. I don't want to do that. No.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to do
Are
that."
you really here because of that, or do you want to see just us do whatever?
That's uncomfortable. That is an uncomfortable scene.
Yeah. It is. It is. It is. It's worse to realize that happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was real. Yeah. They don't try to cover up the fact that he is just
contrarian.
Contrarian. Just in his own world, and he just does it. I've always kind of figured that, and if you look at him in documentaries from the 60s and watching this if he wasn't on the autism spectrum, because the way that he just flat out says the truth to people without filtering it
Yeah.
is a very autistic trait.
Or maybe he just doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, I mean, he loves pretense, except when it comes to his music.
Yeah.
He loves it when it comes from himself. He's told every single story about himself that you can imagine.
And
The
I was
carnival thing, the cowboys, and all of that. He used to go with that in the early '60s. It was
I was not shocked at the very end of this. There's a text to tell you what happened to everybody.
yeah.
It was not even a little bit of a shock that when he got his Nobel Prize for literature,
didn't go.
that he didn't attend the ceremony. Not even a
In
little bit.
fairness, I think he was on tour and he couldn't get out of the date.
But do you
So,
think he would have gone anyway? I mean,
I doubt it.
Did
He
he-
did end up later on. He did. You have to make a lecture there within a year, or you have to surrender the prize. He eventually did go there and give an address and then leave. That did happen, but most people don't really know that happened.
my memory's fading. My memory's failing me. Did he pick up his Oscar?
He was in
Wonderful.
Australia on tour at the time.
Okay.
He did.
He
did
performed
via
it there.
He performed it via satellite
Okay.
in Australia, and he accepted the award on air, but I think they had to mail it to him.
Okay. So, but he did.
Yeah, because he was a part of the live broadcast.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, my memory was failing. It's been a few years.
Yeah.
But I want
he
to-
did. He wa-
This is a very, very good movie. I was surprised how much I enjoyed it. I feel like I learned a lot. And Timothy Chalamet gives a wonderful performance. And all the things that I said. I love the fact that it allows the other supporting players to have a character, not just a bit.
Elle Fanning, I think, kind of got a little robbed.
Yeah.
She probably should have also gotten a supporting actress nomination.
The person who comes off, the person who really gets the shaft of this thing is Scoot McNairy, who plays Woody Guthrie.
Yeah.
Because his only role is to lay in bed. Those are his lines. Because he has Huntington's disease. And
He manages once. He goes, Bobby!
Yeah. And that's about it.
Bobby!
Okay,
To give him
so
the harmonica.
okay, so before we wrap this thing up, I want to ask you just a few of your predictions for Sunday night, because I have no idea what's going to win Best Picture. I don't.
I don't. At this point, I'm thinking lead actress is up in the air.
I don't think it is.
No?
Mm-mm.
What do you think? Oh, Mickey Madsen
No.
or Demi Moore.
Let me put it this way. Here's my heart is. If Demi Moore wins, I'll be sad for Mickey Madison. If Mickey Madison wins, I'll be sad for Demi Moore. That's
Right.
kind of where I am. But I
Yeah.
think Demi Moore will win because Demi Moore does not have another chance to win.
No.
Mickey Madison does.
Yeah.
And
I think Timothy Chalamet is going to win, even though.
no, I know he's going to win.
I mean, even. Man, why does Ralph Fiennes keep putting out great movies and getting nominated when there are other performances that outshine? I mean, he's got to have a more conscientious release schedule, I think. Supporting actor, Kieran Culkin, I think, is just not even gonna not win. I don't think there's a chance.
I
for
haven't seen
anybody
that one yet.
else. That's a good movie.
The Real
I
Pain.
enjoyed that a lot, and I really loved his character. A great tragedy is that Edward Norton will not win for Pete Seeger because he fucking was Pete Seeger. Supporting, I'm fairly certain Saldana is going to grab.
IndieWire says that IndieWire's a good barometer of this.
Mhm.
IndieWire says Zoe Saldana will win this.
I'm pretty
and
sure.
and
I
with
would
with
love
Rosanna or Isabella
Isabella
Rossellini,
Rossellini.
second place.
Yeah, I would love to see Isabella Rossellini win. I would love to see Felicity Jones win, but she deserves a lead actress Oscar because she is a lead actress, and honestly, I think she should have been nominated for lead for The Brutalist because she was the lead actress.
Whatever's gonna win Best Picture, I have no freaking clue.
I'm
I'm
unsure of that. I'm fairly certain. I'm gonna put my money on Sean Baker for director
mhm,
because he got the DGA.
yeah.
I think that I think if The Substance wins Best Original Screenplay, Demi Moore won't win. I think that's going to be we're going to give it one statue and that's it.
Oh, she's gonna win. I
And
think she's gonna win.
Demi, so I think that the best shots in original screenplay probably Honora or The Brutalist. And if things are going the way that I think, they might go with Honora for Best Picture, and they might give The Brutalist original screenplay.
I don't think The Brutalist has got the kind of backing. I don't
It
think
doesn't
the
have the momentum. If the Oscars were held 2 weeks after the Golden Globes, it would have had momentum.
yeah. If it
But
were
now,
held
I
if it were
mean,
held at the first of the year, it would have been Wicked.
right.
But I think right now it's down to Honora or I think the what's happened in the last 2 weeks has killed Amelia Perez.
Oh yeah.
I'm Still Here, I think is going to win Best International Picture.
Oh, I hope so. Oh, that was such a good movie. Oh, that
Uh,
was such a
it
good movie.
might be. It might come down between Honora and Conclave. Conclave won.
You
What won the producers award? What won the producer?
Nora.
Honora. Ooh.
Honora won PGA, but
Mm,
but Conclave won SAG.
okay.
Um,
Which is more certain though? Producers get the producers award is
well,
more.
in terms of Best Picture, because it's the entire voting body votes for Best Picture,
Mm,
whereas for directors or at the Producers Guild, it's just producers
mhm.
throwing in. For Best Picture, the
Is Timothy Chalamet nominated in the Best Picture category? Because he's a producer on that.
no, he is not listed. Fred Berger, James Mangold, and Alex Heineman. I was actually hoping, because Bob Dylan is also a producer on it, that they would throw him on there too.
Yeah.
Get him another nom. But I think there's a few things that could happen. Honora, I think, has a popular enough reputation and is on a big awards swing, and it is something that you can come to with, but it's long, and so many of the people in the Academy do not watch the movies that they're voting for.
But I have to stick by the idea that most of the Academy voters, the ones who do vote, are older. And I
Yeah,
see
I
them
mean,
leaning more toward Conclave than I do Honora.
I think Conclave, or even because of just the fact of it, The Brutalist, just because people are like, oh yeah, it's 3.5 hours long, and it's really good,
About the
so I
Holocaust.
guess Best Picture, whatever. Well, Holocaust survivor. If it came down to like a populist vote,
Mhm.
Wicked would win.
Yeah.
Um,
Like I say,
I don't know. Best Picture is literally a horse race at this point. It
yeah.
is that there's no real front runner. There are just ones that aren't gonna pull ahead.
See, I like years like this
I do
when you're
too.
not.
Like
It's
Amelia
not all so
Perez
locked
is
down.
pulling up the back. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I'm Still Here. I don't think really has a shot.
Hmm.
I wish it did. And I think, except for a lot of technical stuff, Dune's going to be overlooked again.
Well, Dune's gonna. Let me go down the.
See, I think Dune is going to get the Lord of the Rings treatment, and when Part 3 comes out, it's going to get all the Oscars. And
What's gonna happen
they
is, yeah, I believe, Wicked's gonna get all the pretty awards, the costume, the production design, all of that stuff. The substance, that's gonna be screenplay. Very possibly, I'm 95% sure it's Demi Moore. Anora, maybe Best Picture. Screenplay. Conclave will eat shit unless it wins Best Picture.
yeah, I don't think they're going to. Yeah, I agree.
The
It's
Brutalist,
sad, but yes, I agree.
the Brutalist, maybe it's score
Mm,
if it doesn't sweep and get Best Picture. I think like you said before, right after the Golden Globes, it had a better chance.
yeah.
Dune, it's a sequel and it's a year old. I think it's
See,
old news by this point.
I think, yeah, there was such a heavy momentum even just in the first half of the year for it.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think it suffers from when it was released
Hmm.
and the fact that it's the middle chapter,
Yeah, it's old news by this point.
um, and yeah, which is unfortunate because it is an excellent movie.
It is. It is.
Um,
Amelia Perez, except for Zoe Saldana, has gotten eaten up by all of what's happened in the last few weeks. All
no,
the stuff with the
that's
AI and all of that stuff, all the controversies.
yeah,
It's been eaten up by that. Nickel Boys is gonna eat shit. It's not gonna win anything.
unfortunately,
It's a good
yes.
it's a good picture.
It is, and it should have been nominated for cinematography, which is where it could have won.
Complete Unknown, Timothy Chalamet.
Chalamet, and I don't think too much else.
Yeah, and
Um,
I'm Still Here, International Picture.
yeah,
But
yeah.
the only one I didn't get to see. Did you get to see Sing Sing? Coleman Domingo
It's on
nominated the
VOD
second year in a
though.
row. Yeah,
He is only like the fifth person to be nominated back to back
yeah.
for Best Lead Actor. That's a pretty big achievement.
And I'm gonna tell you, I did a little research. I noticed that the best barometer for winning a lead actor role is to play someone real, to play a real
Hmm.
person, because in the
Hmm.
last 10 years, 5 of them have been based on real people.
Hmm.
You know,
But I think if when Timothy Chalamet wins, he will not only break Adrian Brody's record of being the youngest person to win a Best Lead Actor
mhm.
Oscar, but he'll only be something like the fifth or the seventh person to win
How old is he?
for a singer.
How old is he?
He is 29.
Okay, he will not be the youngest person to win a leading award because Mickey Madison is 25. If she wins.
Best actor is what
Yeah,
they were saying.
I'm saying the youngest
Yeah.
person in the lead, because the youngest so far in the leading category is Richard Dreyfuss, who was 29, and I think
Adrian Brody was the
little,
youngest since he won for The Pianist.
right. But
He
Richard
was
Dreyfuss
the
is the
youngest
youngest.
at that.
Hang
Let's
on.
see. Adrian Brody was born April 14th, 1973. He won for The Pianist, which was from 2002.
Okay, you're right.
So,
You're right. 29. Okay. Because I think it's by months.
Yeah.
Richard Dreyfuss was slightly older, but God, he's 51 now, and yeah, Mickey Madison is 25. See, who is the youngest Best Actress winner? I think it was Marlee Matlin.
Maybe. I know the youngest Best Supporting Actress is Tatum O'Neal.
That's the youngest actor.
Yeah, period. Yeah.
Marlee Matlin, 21.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be one of those that you really just don't know what's gonna happen.
It's going to be fun in the
And-
awards. It's not going to be a fun show to watch because this award show is going to be leaned very, very hard on two things: the wildfires and Donald Trump. So it's not going to be a lot of fun in that respect.
And the host lost his home in the fires.
Yes, yes. That's why I'm not having a party this year. I was like, this is just not going to be a fun, and but not going to be a lot of fun. And a lot of my friends that come over for my Oscar party every year are on the conservative side, so it's have to listen to.
Really, in Alabama, I would have never figured.
Can you imagine? And but it could surprise me. I don't know. I like Conan. He's never hosted before. I have a feeling he'll never host again.
Yeah, I hope he's better than Letterman's One and Done, though.
Oh, Letterman! Letterman tried to turn the Oscars into his show, and it didn't work.
Just didn't work.
Neither did Chris Rock.
It's a thankless job, really, because you're trying to make an entire room full of people laugh at jokes made at their expense.
Right. And the only person that could smooth that out was Billy Crystal
And Bob Hope.
But
Billy Crystal will never host another Oscars. He has said, "I am never doing this ever again."
That's such a heartbreaker.
After that 10-year run in the 90s, he's like, "Yeah, nope, I'm never touching this thing again."
He's my Oscar host. Always will be. He was the one. He hosted for I don't know how many years, but he was there and he was always really funny. And I remember the year that he bailed on Schindler's List. The job went to Whoopi Goldberg. It was the year when there wasn't a laugh to be found in any of the 5 Best Picture nominees, and it was this. Yeah, because it was all about the Holocaust because of Schindler's List.
Well, 93. Yeah, that was. There were a few, weren't there?
Schindler's List, In the Name of the Father, The Piano, The Fugitive.
And The Remains of the Day, right?
Right. I'm remembering that off the top of my head, by the way.
Yeah, The Fugitive, In the Name of the Father, The Piano, Remains of the Day, Schindler's List. Yeah, there's not.
The Fugitive was fun.
Yeah, I really do like The Fugitive, but the rest of them, it's
not a laugh between them.
no.
And that was a hell of a year.
Yeah, it was.
But we'll see, because we're going to do a wrap-up show after this, and I really enjoyed. I've actually appreciated this year's Best Picture nominees because it's such an eclectic, very strange group. It's not all, because you remember, I think it was 99 when it was 2 Edwardian movies and then 3 World War II movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, what was it? It was not 90.
It was Saving Private Ryan.
98 had Saving Private Ryan, The Thin Red Line,
Life is
and
Beautiful.
Life is Beautiful, as well as Elizabeth and
Shakespeare in Love.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I did that off the top of my head.
That was the year that Mr. Weinstein bought the Oscar, proved that you could buy an Oscar.
Pretty much, yeah.
If you want that full story, read the Oscar Wars.
Netflix
It's a great
proves every year that you can buy nominations.
Yeah. All right, that's all I got.
Amelia Perez. Yeah. Yeah, that's all I have. We are in process of reestablishing our socials. So until we do, we have just here on YouTube. So hit the like, subscribe, notifications buttons there, and tell your friends, family, relations. If you like us, if you don't like us, recommend us to your worst enemy. Just get us out there. We greatly
get there any way
appreciate
you
word
can.
of mouth. Yeah, so we thank you very much for joining us, and the pod bay doors are now closed.